The intro to this video was gonna be a parody of the Pumps USA, but in order to avoid copyrights, I'm just gonna link the video down in the comments. Hello and welcome everyone to today's set breakdown. We're gonna be taking a look at V-EB01, the Destructive Roar. This is the first extra booster for the V series and includes support for Megacolony, Spike Brothers, and Tachikaze. And we're gonna be taking a look at it in the order, as always, of my least preferred to most preferred. I'm surprisingly reordered it after my first impressions of the set, but I think most of you that watch my videos regularly already know what that order is going to be. But without any further ado, let's take a look. The only important piece of information that's worth noting before we get into it is that there's no secret rares in this set, so there's no like signed gift markers. This is all just origin rares and SVRs, and that's it for the special rarities. And it also seems that in English we're not going to be getting the reprints of the strides that they got in Japanese, so that's a bit of a shame. Anyway, here are the three markers. So these are box toppers. You get one of each marker. That's not like one of each marker, but you get two of the regular ones, and then one of them will be the special art. So like you can get Zyfried and then the normal Axel, normal Protect, or like Gigarex and then get the two other ones in normal. So, you know, you get one special one per box, so that's a nice way to distribute them, but there's no other special gift markers outside of that. However, now without any further ado, let's get into the first clan of support, which is going to be Megacolony. We're going to be starting off with Machining Spark Hercules. So, Megacolony is a Protect clan, so this does have the Protect marker, and he has the Act first skill on Vanguard circles. So, once per turn, cost Counterblast 2, choose 5 of your rearguards and stand them, and they get plus 5,000 power until end of turn. Then choose all of your opponent's units, rest them, and they get minus 5,000 until end of your opponent's next turn. Now, it's important to note that even if you don't stand your rearguards, all 5 of them will still get the plus 5k buff. And obviously you don't need to have 5 as many as you can give plus 5k to. You give that many rearguards plus 5k, so that way you're building up nice numbers. But most importantly, your opponent's units will be losing 5k whether they're resting or not. And even if they were standing before or were all resting before, they will be forced to rest. But the minus 5k is the most important part because this sticks to your opponent's turn. This makes it hard for your opponent to hit you with their attackers, or they have to call new units even to be able to reach you and try to close game, for example. So this is a really nice skill. The Counterblast 2 is a bit hefty, but you do have a lot of countercharge in this clan in standard, so it's definitely not an issue. His second skill is also really nice. Once per turn on Vanguard Circle Act, you can put a grade 2 or less rearguard into your soul, and he gets plus 5k until end of turn for each of your opponent's rested units. So that's also super nice because his first skill pumps up your field, and his second skill just pumps up him. And because you use another grade 3 that we're going to take a look at really soon to call out units in rest, you can basically recycle them to get yourself extra power. So it's definitely super nice. So that's it for the VR. He's very well rounded but quite simple to understand why he's good, so I don't think we need to spend too much time talking about him. Next up we have Machining Stag Beetle, which is also the origin rare of the set. He has a Vanguard and Rearguard skill that when he's placed from hand, call up to 2 cards from your soul to Rearguard Circle as rest, and if this unit was placed on Vanguard Circle, this unit gets the original power of all of the units called with this effect until end of turn. This is also really nice. Important clause is when he's placed from hand, so you can't call another one from soul and expect to use it. This will only be when you call it from hand, so make sure to be careful when you use him. But overall this is really good. It doesn't cost Counterblast, doesn't call Soul Blast. Well, technically calls from the soul, so you are getting cards out of the soul, but the main reason why you've been soul charging things to begin with is to call them out with Stag Beetle, so it's really nice. You can call out your new units with him and then use Spark Hercules to stand them. I think it's really a very simple to understand combo, and even if you ride into him on the Vanguard Circle, he's gonna get the extra power, so that makes him very good. So I think he's a very important but well-rounded unit for the clan. Next up we have our triple rare grade 2, which is Machining Mantis. Has a Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill. When placed, Counterblast 1, look at 6 cards from top of your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 card from among them, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets plus 6k until end of turn. Very simple skill. Obviously, as we mentioned already, you want to be getting your grade 3s. There's one more that we're going to take a look at very soon that's another grade 3 that you want to be finding, but this is good because you get your Stag Beetles to call out your new stuff, you get your Spark Hercules to ride into for more protect and having more souls, so overall Machining Mantis is a good card. It's very simple to understand why. Even if you whiff the top 6 and don't get a grade 3, you still get to get the plus 6k, so your counterblast doesn't go completely wasted, but I think even with the amount of countercharge that the deck has, it's fine to, you know, gamble for that top 6 with that one counterblast, so this is a good card. And here we are at the final grade 3 that you want to be finding, which is Death Warden Antlion. has a Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill, and also has the Protect marker. When it attacks, Soul Blast to grade 3 and discard 2, and until end of that battle, he gets plus 10k power, plus 1 critical, and your opponent can't guard with Sentinels from hand. So this is a really scary skill because even if you ride into him towards the late game, that's going to be an extra 10k and a crit with the non-Sentinel drop on a Vanguard Circle with drive checks, so that's going to make it quite scary. But even on Rearguard Circle is going to be quite scary because you already have pressure from your Vanguard going in, but then if you have two of these or even one of them set up on the side, that's definitely going to be quite scary for your opponent. You can kind of keep them at 4 damage and keep pressuring with the Antlion, but obviously do be careful when you use them because that discard 2 is quite heavy. Moving along, we have Machining Hornet, similar to the Machining Mantis, but this time without Counterblast. So, Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill, when its attack or the attack that it boosted hits a Vanguard, look at the top 6, reveal up to 1 grade 3 from among them, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you put it into your hand, and this unit is on Rearguard Circle, you can put him into your soul. So he's, in my opinion, an even better version of Mantis, because with him, it's just, even on turn 1, if you drop him, let's say you're grade stuck, you don't have a grade 3, you can drop him on turn 1, try to just like boost and try to hit with the attack. Look at top 6, find a grade 3, and there you're good. That's it. So I think it's quite nice. He goes into the soul, but that's not a problem because you can use Stag Beetle to call him out once again and then use his skill again. So if anything, it's good that he goes into the soul because it opens up other plays later on in the game. Next, we have Paralyzed Madonna, which is the draw perfect guard for Megacolony. So just, you know, the standard one as always. And I should also mention that from this set breakdown onwards, we're not going over the regular triggers because every clan type gets the same kind of triggers with like Axel clans get two of each basically, including Franz, and then every other clan gets their 2 crits, the heal, and the 2 draw triggers, or well, the extra draw trigger that isn't a perfect guard. So I don't think we really need to keep going over the same crits, the same draws, and the same heals every single time. Next, we have Water Gang. Has a very simple skill. When it stands, counterblast 1 and put into your soul to draw 2. Again, this does work really nicely with the whole clan, really, because you can use the Spark Hercules to stand it, use an extra counterblast to draw extra cards. So it also goes back into the soul, so then Stag Beetle can call it out, and that just makes it, you know, very synergetic and overall very good. But you don't want to be running 4 of him, maybe 3 of them should be fine normally. Next, we have Bloody Hercules. When you call him, Soul Blast 1, give him plus 6k power until end of turn. Makes him a 15k attacker, which is good. Extra 5k will come from the Spark Hercules, so making him a 20, meaning he hits for any grade 2, basically, for magic numbers. Second skill is, when his attack hits, and so it doesn't have to hit the Vanguard, it can hit anything, you countercharge 1, and one of your units gets plus 6k until end of turn. So there you can go, you know, pumping up maybe your Mantis, who got a plus 6, so was 15, give it another plus 6, hits for 21, which is again a magic number against all grade 2s. So that's again really nice, and this makes it a really good card, especially because that on hit doesn't have to be on Vanguard. Next is Spiteful Hopper. This is one of our good countercharging cards. When placed, Soul Blast 1, and one of your other units gets plus 6k until end of turn, and if you have no face-up cards in your damage zone, countercharge 1. So if you're counterblasting really aggressively with your, you know, your Spark Hercules, your Mantis, and whatnot, or like your Water Gang, then you can use Spiteful Hopper pretty easily just to keep countercharging and also pumping up your units by plus 6k. Next up is Phantom Black. This card is quite threatening. When it boosts, you can discard a card, and until end of battle he gets plus 6k, and your opponent cannot call normal units from hand to Guardian Circles. So that is definitely quite nice, especially in combination with Antlion. You basically seal off Sentinels and normal units, meaning your opponent can only guard with heals, or not with heals, but like just with trigger units. So that's quite nice because if your opponent hasn't drawn or hasn't checked enough triggers, they're probably going to lose to that combo, so it's definitely quite good. And also in premium, this card is insane with Zoa, so that's also worth noting. Next, they got their grade 1 Perfect Guard. I think for now I'll still mention the grade 1 Perfect Guards, but those are also like every clan gets them in every set, so it's starting to become a little bit of a repeating thing that I just don't feel like mentioning in every single set breakdown. Then there is Strong Toxic Mutant's Hell Demise. When you call him, you choose one of your opponent's rearguards, rest it, and stand one of your own rearguards. So this way, when you call something with Stag Beetle, you can also use Hell Demise, or like call Hell Demise, and then call, you know, stand something else. Potentially, you could use Stag Beetle to call out the Hell Demise together with something else, and then choose to use Hell Demise's skill to stand the other thing, or even himself, you know, so then it works quite nicely. But I don't see him used too much because he unfortunately doesn't have the Protect marker. His second skill, however, is a continuous rearguard circle. All of your opponent's rearguards in the back row of the same column as this unit cannot stand during their stand phase. So this is also quite nice. This is the traditional stun that we're used to for Megacolony back in the day. Then moving on, we have Nasty Smog, which is a bit more of that traditional stunning. So his first skill is all your opponent's units in the same column as this unit cannot intercept. So this is more of the dark face kind of skills that we're used to from the G era. And then his second skill is a continuous. All of your opponent's rearguards in the back row of the same column as this unit cannot stand during their stand phase. So literally the exact same skill as Hell Demise, but on a grade 2, meaning it's a bit more flexible and easier to use in your decks. Next we have Burner Ant. He's a grade 2 with 8k power, has an act. You can rest him, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit, and move it to your opponent's open rearguard circle. So you get to maybe move a back row to the front row, and then that way it's in range for your attacks. So that's definitely quite interesting of a skill. And the second skill is an act. You can discard a card from your hand to stand him and he gets +5 cancel end of turn. That skill is an act, however, so you can't get multiple attacks out of him. It's just that if you call him in rest with Stag Beetle, that's literally the only reason, but your Vanguard already does that, so maybe this would be just an option for budget decks, and that's about it. Next is Karma Queen, which is the 7k, 15k shield grade 1 vanilla, so nothing too special, but worth mentioning nevertheless. And then we have Small Captain Butterfly Officer, or Tanya as most people like to call her. So she has 6k power but a very strong skill. When you call her, you can rest her, choose up to one of your other rearguards and it gets plus 10k power until end of turn. If you chose, at the end of that turn, put that unit into your soul and countercharge 1. So this is a really good card because of that very simple clause, which is if you chose. So even if the unit that you choose to give the 10k power to is no longer on the field at the end of the turn, you will still get the countercharge because of that wording. So you can give it to something like the Hornet, who will remove himself from the field usually, and then even if he removes himself from the field, you'll still get the countercharge. But you can literally give it to anyone that you don't mind going into the soul, because that countercharge is really important and very consistent. So the 6k power is definitely not an issue because you convert it into a 10k power anyway. And then you can recycle her by just putting her into the soul, and that just makes her very, very consistent and very good and worth running as a 4 of. Next is your typical starter, which is Machining Worker Ant. When you ride on top of him, draw a card, so nothing too special, but there is a slightly more special starter in the set as well, which is Jocular Cicada. So this has a skill, it doesn't have any Forerunner skills, and it also doesn't have the skill that when you ride on top of it, draw a card, but instead it says, when this unit would be called to rearguard circle, it's called as rest. So if you call it, by any means, it'll be called as rest. And then his other skill is, on rearguard circle, when it attacks, triple this unit's power until end of that battle, and at the end of that battle, retire him. So it also states that the increase includes the power from boost, so it's the full power that you triple. But the reason why you'd use this is because even if you don't get the extra draw at the start, you can use Stag Beetle to call him out of your soul, and then it will still come into play as rest, because it has to, but also because Stag Beetle calls it that way. But then you can use your Spark Hercules to stand it, and then you'll get the triple power, so you can stack like crits on top of it because the deck does tend to play 8 crit, and then you have a massive attacker and people use it just for that one reason. But I think the consistency from Worker Ant is a bit better, especially, considering the early draw does help you not get grade stuck and just find your other cards much easier. But if you want to try out Cicada, I do encourage you to do so as well. And that's actually it for the Megacolony part. So I think we've seen results from Japan already. Megacolony is topping big events just because of that minus 5k from Spark Hercules is really strong, and the consistent countercharge and lots of pressure playstyle, as well as finding units from things like Mantis, is definitely very strong. So it's no wonder that the clan is topping, and it's nice to see it doing well for once as well. Next up on the list is going to be Tachikaze, the clan that I first saw as the number 1 from this set, but then it kind of went down to number 2 after I actually played with the cards. So their main unit, that is the VR, is Ravenous Dragon Gigarex. His first skill is when he attacks, and attacks anything by the way, put up to 1 card from the top of your deck face down as an equip gauge for each of your rearguards. This unit gets plus 5k until the end of that battle for each of your rearguards. So how this works is, when you attack with him, you can choose for each of your rearguards to give them 1 gauge or no gauge. And then let's say you have 3 rearguards, you give 2 of them a gauge and 1 0, so that's fine. And then for each rearguard that you have, so if you had 3, he gets plus 15, and then if you have 1, he gets plus 5, so for each rearguard that you have, he gets plus 5k. So it doesn't matter if you put a gauge to a unit or not, he'll get plus 5k for each rearguard, period. So he's a really good card because he's the main acceleration of the new mechanic that is Equip Gauge, which is basically where you take the top card from your deck and put it face down as an Equip Gauge on one of your rearguards. So it's like if your rearguard had soul, basically. So he's the main accelerator for that whole clan, really, and so it's really important to play him if you do want to play the deck competitively. But his second skill is also quite nice, but it's not the main focus of the card. Act, discard 5 Equipped Gauge. 3 of your front row rearguards get +5 cancel end of turn, and if your opponent's damage zone has 4 or less cards, deal 1 damage to your opponent's Vanguard. So this skill is like an icing, it's like the cherry on top. It's not, the main focus of the card is the first skill obviously, but the second one is also nice. So if you do manage to amass 5 gauge, let's say on your back row rearguards, you can deal an extra damage to your opponent, give 3 of your front row rearguards +5k, and you know, they might heal out of that damage, but it's still, even if they do, that's a heal trigger they wasted that's not on an attack. So this card is definitely very scary and makes Tachikaze very frightening, so I think a lot of players are excited for him, and you know, I was as well, but it's just that the clan is so bricky that I kind of got, you know, a little bit sick of it. Next is the triple rare and also origin rare, which is Tyrant's Deathrex. He also has the Axle marker, and his skill is on Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. When he attacks the Vanguard specifically, Soul Blast 1 and retire one of your other rearguards. Choose one of your opponent's front row rearguards and retire it. This unit gets +10 cancel on that battle for each gauge equipped to the rearguard retired for this cost. So when you pay the cost, you retire a rearguard, and then for each gauge that rearguard had, you get that many +10k. So if you had 3 gauge, you get +30k on him. If you had 1, you get +10. If you had none, then you get 0. But also, what's nice is that this is the only way to retire your opponent's units in the whole clan, and for an Axel clan to be able to retire things is definitely very nice, so that does make him quite nice, but you honestly don't want to be writing into him. You really want to be calling him, and that's about it, but that still makes him a really good card nevertheless. Next up in grade 2 for the clan is Ravenous Dragon Megarex. His skill is really simple. Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill: when he attacks a Vanguard, retire another rearguard, and draw a card. If this unit is on Rearguard Circle, you can combust 1, put the top card of your deck face down as an equip gauge for this unit, and it gets +5k until the end of that battle for each gauge equipped to this unit. God, equip gauge equipped, it keeps swapping around the words. It's a bit hard to read, honestly, but this card is really good. It draws you cards, it triggers your on-retire effects, it also gets you extra gauge, it hits for large numbers if it's on Rearguard Circle, so overall an amazing grade 2, but I think it's quite self-explanatory why he is so good. Next is Assault Dragon Blytops. Continuous. When it would be retired from Rearguard Circle, you can combust 1, and if you do, return up to 2 gauges equipped to this unit to your hand. Really nice because you can amass just a couple equip gauge onto him, or move around your equip gauge that the good units are on him, and then when he does get retired by something like Deathrex or even Megarex, you can then take those cards into your hand, so you're basically getting advantage in an Axel clan, which is a really big deal. So he's very self-explanatory but very good as well. Next is Sonic Noah, which is your main boosting card. So his first skill is when he boosts a rearguard, so not the Vanguard, put the top card of your deck face down as an equip gauge for the boosted unit. You know, it would be impossible to put it under the Vanguard, so it doesn't make sense why it has that wording, but very easy gauge Axel for free basically, so definitely very nice. Second skill is Vanguard and Rearguard skill. When this attack or the attack that it boosted hits a Vanguard, you can retire one of your other rearguards and draw a card. So that's also very good because that is free draw, and again you trigger your on retire effects like Blytops. That's also cool. One thing I should have also mentioned with Blytops is that when it would be retired from Rearguard Circle also means that it can also be retired by your opponent's attacks. So this can go off on your opponent's turn, so if your opponent attacks into it, then you know, you're going to be getting extra cards into your hand, which is what you want to be doing. Next, the perfect draw for the clan is Arcbird, so nothing too special here. And then the first grade 3 rare is an Axel marker possessing Savage King. His first skill is Rearguard Circle Continuous. He gets +5k during your turn for each gauge equipped to him. So that's really nice because of his second skill, which allows you to, when you attack a Vanguard, move all of the gauge equipped to one of your units to this unit. So you just absorb everything from one unit onto him, thus making him a really big attacker. So he's a bit of a win more card where like you do better. You can hit for more damage, hit for bigger numbers if you do get him off, but he's not a necessary unit. So you can play like 1 or 2 just for that little win more factor, but you won't actually, you know, change your entire game plan depending on whether you run him or not. Next is Attempt Mammoth, which some players do like, and I like him a bit myself, but some players are very against him. His first skill is, during the battle that he attacked, when your opponent would call a Guardian from their hand, he or she must call 2 or more at the same time. So, you know, that's basically the Battle Door skill on something that doesn't cost Counterblast or Soul Blast. but it does have the downside, which is the second skill. At the end of the battle that it attacked, discard a gauge equipped to him. Otherwise, you retire him. So that's the little shortage of this unit, where when you attack with him, you know, you have the pressure, but if you don't have gauge on him, then he's just gonna die. So you do lose the attacker, you lose the 5k intercept, so it's a little bit unfortunate, so do be careful how you use him if you do, or if you don't, then, you know, it doesn't really matter. Next is Winged Dragon Skype Taro. His skill is very simple. When he's retired from Rearguard Circle during your turn, so not the same as Blighttops, counterblast 1 and return him to your hand. So this is one of those like triggered by retiring effects that I mentioned, so I think it's quite good. Honestly, people were really disappointed when he was first revealed, but in my opinion he is super nice because you get a 10k shield back into your hand for a single counterblast. The clan doesn't really counterblast that much to begin with, at least not like all in one go. So I think he's definitely worth running. He's good for your early game combos with Mega Rex, where you can call him, attack with Mega Rex, retire him, move him back to hand, yada yada yada. So very simple combos, but very easy to execute as well. Next is Vicious Claw Dragon Laceratex. Laceratex. God, I always say Laceratex, but I guess it was a Terex, wasn't it? Anyway, when you call him from hand, put the top card of your deck face down as an equip gauge for this unit. So just self-funds gauge, which is definitely nice. And his second skill is basically like Blighttops. When it would be retired from Rearguard Circle, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, return up to 1 gauge equipped to this unit to your hand. So it is basically like Blighttops, but for Soul Blast, and instead of taking 2 cards, you get 1 instead. So you can call him early game, and then, you know, your opponent, if they attack him, you just let it through, and then, hey, look, here's another card in my hand. So definitely not something to complain about. Probably one of the most versatile cards because he is a self-sufficient card, where he gets the gauge himself, and he can also take it back to hand. So I think it's also a nice card, and it just, you know, you want to run 4 of him, that's basically it. Next is the Grade 1 Perfect Guard, which is Robust Tops, so nothing too special here. Then we have this combination between Sharangastego and Refill Stego. So these are kind of budget options, and the Grade 3 doesn't have the Axle marker, but still worth talking about. So Sharangastego's effect is an act Vanguard and Rearguard Circle, counterblast 1 and retire 1 other Rearguard, and all of your Sharangastegos and Refill Stegos on Vanguard and Rearguard Circle get plus 10k power until end of turn. Something worth to note is that this is an act that isn't once per turn, so you can technically use it until you run out of either Rearguards or Counterblast, you know, to just build up massive attackers, I guess. But, you know, if you check the crits, then it might be worth it. But Refill Stego's effect is basically the same. Actually, it is literally the same. Both cards have the exact same effect, except that for whatever reason, Refill Stego only has 8k power, whereas Sharangastego has the usual 12k. But I guess his detrimental factor is the fact that he lacks the Axle gift, so I guess that's something, but it's just a bit of a budget combo, so for the more budget players, this might be something you want to check out. Then we have Savage Raider, a card that I've had a very love-hate relationship with, but is still very good and worth acknowledging. So when placed from hand on Rearguard Circle, you can put the top card of your deck face down as an equip gauge for one of your other Rearguards. So it has to be another one, can't give it to himself, important thing to note. But you know, costless gauge filler, definitely quite good. Second skill is when it attacks a Vanguard, you may move any number of gauges equipped to one of your Rearguards to one of your other Rearguards. I guess it doesn't say the other on the card, but that's kind of what's assumed, because if you move from one Rearguard to another Rearguard, then that's usually, you know, usually means that you move to another one, but you know, that's at least what I understand from it. So basically, it's the same as Savage King. You're just moving around gauge. It's just, you know, something that you want to have. But I wonder if this will get errated, because I think Savage King, well, he just absorbs it himself, so it's a bit different, I guess. So we'll see if this gets errated or not. It's hard to say if things need to get errated with the new wording, but, you know, if they're not King of Sword or, you know, the other Joka and stuff like that, I guess there's not that much of a need for errata. Then there's a Grade 1 9k 0 Shield Vanilla, same thing as all Axel clans, and finally the starter that every clan gets, which is Dragon Egg, with this skill that when you're right on top of it, you draw 1 card. So that's it for Tachikaze. I think it's a quite bit of a high rolly deck. There's a lot of things you can do, there's a lot of interesting combos and interactions, but the one detrimental thing is that if you don't ride into Gigarex, it's gonna hurt, because it does really require you to set up properly and then pull off your combos well. But I think if you do open Exodia, as people say, if you open the right hand, it's definitely very destructive, and that does fit with the set name, so I think it is, you know, it's doing what it needs to do. And finally, the reason why I said the thing that I said at the intro is because of Spike Brothers. So the clan that people say doesn't fit in the game because everything is so like themed, and then suddenly there's just American football. But honestly, Spikes are cool. Spikes are a really fun clan this time around, so I'm all for it. Anyway, this time, we're taking a look at the VR that is General Siegfried. I see your comments. I know I'm not supposed to say Siegfried, but that's how it always is. There's Siegfried in Grand Blue Fantasy and in Shadowverse and in everything. Please. Anyway, let's stop being salty and go over his skills. First one of which is an Act Vanguard Circle, Counterblast 1 and put a rearguard into your soul. Search your deck for up to one card with the same card name as the card that you put into your soul for this cost. Call to rearguard circle and that unit and this unit get plus 10 cancel end of turn. Shuffle your deck. So, this is not once per turn, which is really nice, meaning that you can choose a rearguard, you know, slide into soul, Counterblast 1, search another one, and then do it again. The reason why you want to be doing it so many times is because this is deck thinning, and a lot of the cards in this clan now are thinning the deck like crazy. They just keep calling out copies of themselves, and then you don't need to worry about, you know, whether you need to gamble on the 2 to pass or not, because most of your deck is triggers anyway, so it's actually worth to gamble on it. And the reason why you gamble is because of that second skill. When its attack hits, anything by the way, Soul Blast 2, stand one of your rearguards, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, and retire it. So this is so good because you have the amazing on-hit pressure of Soul Blast 2, which you have in excess of anyway because of that first skill, stand something, and retire something. This is universal retire too, so it's front row, back row, anything. And also stand, you know, if you're standing something, you're going to see how big these rearguards get as we go through the rest of the cards because they are no joke. So this card is amazing, in my opinion, the best VR in the set. Overall, I'm a bit biased because actually I didn't like Spike Brothers much at all before this, but just from playtesting, I think this is just the best clan in the set. So to me, it's just so good. And I should mention that it does have the force marker, obviously. Next up, we have the good old Juggernaut Maxim, who also comes in Origin Rare. So he does have the force marker, and his first skill is, when placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, he gets plus 10k until end of turn. Very simple, 23k attacker, you can make him 33 with Siegfried, sorry. And then, you know, he hits for big numbers, plus force, you know, all that good stuff. Second skill, however, is at the beginning of your main phase. You can put him into your soul to search your deck for another Juggernaut Maximum, call it, and shuffle your deck. So it's not just Siegfried that's thinning your deck, it's also Juggernaut Maximum and many other cards. So they're all together working in combination to pass the ball around and make sure that the only balls left in your deck are the triggers, I guess. At least that's the logic of this clan, I think. So yeah, very good card. I need to stop talking before this gets out of hand. Next up is Spike Bouncer, which is our grade 2, the main grade 2 for the clan, which has the skill that when you call him or ride him, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as your Vanguard's grade, call up to one card from among them to Rearguard Circle, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So that's really good. You ride into him, get another grade 2 or grade 3, grade 1, anything really, and then just be able to build up your field. If you call a Juggernaut Maximum, you get a grade 3 while you're in grade 2. Everything is nice, everything is beautiful, everything is strong. His rearguard skill is also good. At the end of the battle that he attacked, Counterblast 1 and slide him into your soul, draw a card. To be honest, all the times I've played this deck, I almost never use this skill because I just don't have that much Counterblast at that stage of the game. So you do Counterblast quite a bit in this clan, and even when you don't, it's like you stay at low damage because you don't really need to be at high damage most of the time because your opponent doesn't want to give you that much damage because then you're just going to combo them to death. So it's like, I don't get to use them just for that reason, and I usually use, like if I have one Counterblast left, I'll obviously use it on Siegfried instead, or on Spike Bouncer's first skill, so it usually comes down to that. And then there's the final grade 3, which is Unite Attacker, also has the force marker, and has the very good act once per turn skill. Soul Blast 7 on Vanguard Circle though. Look at 5 cards on the top of your deck, call up to 5 of them to Rearguard Circle, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. 3 of your front row units get plus 5k until the end of turn. So Soul Blast 7 it seems hefty, but honestly it's not because this clan soul charges so much, and then you get, you know, if your opponent field wipes you with like Kagero or something, you can just go like, okay, Unite Attacker, get 5 units, win, you know? it's just good. You also get plus 5k on your front row, so it is a good card. Next up is Gyro Slinger. When placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you can put a card from your hand into your soul, look at the same number of cards on top of your deck as your Vanguard's grade, call up to one of them to Rearguard Circle, and then the rest go on the bottom of your deck in any order, and the cold unit gets plus 5k. So really nice card because on ride, you put something into your soul to top deck into something, and sometimes you top deck into Juggernaut Maximum, which is really nice. So I think just for that, this card is good. And it's also just like, you can run the regular draw trigger with 5k shield just for the sake of putting him into the soul with Gyro Slinger. So honestly, there's no reason not to, I think. You know, some people try to play 8 crits with this deck, and I don't blame them either, but my logic is, you know, I want to use my Gyro Slingers, so putting in grade 2s and the regular draw triggers is definitely fine, but this is a really good card. Next up is the perfect card, which is Cheer Girl Marilyn. Let's learn how to pronounce properly, yes. This is just your regular perfect card, but she has the waifu factor, so you have that going for you if you wish. Next up is Treasured Black Panther. He does have a nice skill when he attacks on Rearguard Circle, Soul Blast 1, he gets plus 5k. But you can also give him plus 15k for that battle, but if he gets 15k, you have to put him into the soul at the end of that battle, which is fine, because then that's one less target for your opponent to attack, and they have to focus on your Vanguard, or your other rearguard, and then your Vanguard, because you want them to hit your Vanguard, because then, hello, that's more counterblast to make more plays, and that's what the clan wants to be doing, and then finish your opponent off. So it kind of puts your opponent into this weird situation, so I think it's a good card just for that reason. Next we have High Speed Braki. So, it literally the exact same skills as Juggernaut. 10k if you place him, but only on Rearguard Circle, and beginning of main phase, basically put him into soul, search another Braki, call it, get another 10k, all is good. So, very simple card, exact same skill as Juggernaut, but also super important because of that deck thinning, and also soul acceleration. Next is one of my favorite cards, Commander Gary Gannon, and not because he might be Laurel's, you know, friend or relative, because they're both commanders, but he's a really good card for a simple reason, which is his skill, that when the attack that it boosted hits a Vanguard, put him into your soul, draw 2 and put 1 on the bottom of your deck. So that 1 refers to a card in your hand, not the 2 that you looked at. Amazing card, you can drop him on turn 1 to have immediate on-hit pressure on your opponent. He gets you extra soul, he gets you extra cards in hand, so definitely good card and worth running as a 4 of. And the final card that really helps your deck thinning is Wonder Boy. So his skill is a little bit different this time. When you call him, you put a non-grade 1 card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck, and he gets plus 5k until end of turn. Non-grade 1 does mean you can put back triggers, so guarding early is rewarded by Wonder Boy, because this way you can recycle your crits, your perfect guards, your heal triggers, you can recycle your important grade 2s like Braki, or Spike Bouncer, or even Juggernaut Maximum himself. So non-grade 1 really opens up a lot of possibilities that makes Wonder Boy super good right now. And his second skill is again the exact same. Beginning of main phase, slide him into soul, search a Wonder Boy, call him. So you can potentially get his skill off a few times if you use Zyfried, so you can use it, you can call him with a skill once, recycle something, use Zyfried, then recycle something again, and then maybe use Zyfried again to recycle something again. So it really depends on your drop zone, but again, the deck thinning and exclusively making it be triggers only is really easy right now, and that makes this card amazing. Next is the grade 1 perfect guard cheer girl Jamie. So she's aggressively pointing at you, so you better... Yeah, no, I don't have anything for this one. Next up is a grade 3 that I've seen quite a few players use like a one of, which is Frontline Command Sigiswald. So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like Savage King. So his skill is at the beginning of your main phase, you can put him into your soul, and then put a card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck, draw a card and countercharge 1. So it's a bit different to the usual beginning of main phase skills, because instead of searching for a copy, he recycles something from drop zone, this time with no restriction, so it can be triggers, grade 1s, anything, but also draws your card and countercharges. So I think one of the reasons why people play him is because, you know, you can't search him any way, at least not in a standard, but once you do run into him, it's just like, okay, I mean, my opponent will want him dead, or I'll get, you know, an extra card back into my deck, so like a trigger, I'll get an extra draw, and I'll get a countercharge. So he's one of these cards that, like, once you call him, he has an immediate target on his head, so I think that's the main reason why people have been playing him. Next up is the 10k Vanilla with 10k Intercept, so, you know, just your regular thing, but I feel like the other clans didn't get them, so I think it's only Force clans that get them actually, so that's fine. Then we have Diabolic Middle Guard. He is a 9k power grade 2, which is unusual for Force clans, but he has the Guardian Circle continuous skill. He gets plus 10k shield during the battle that your grade 3 unit was attacked. So it can be a Vanguard or Rearguard as long as it's grade 3, so he's good at protecting your Mr. Juggernaut. So alright, but I don't know, I haven't seen him play that much, even though his art is really nice. Next is White Tight End, which is a grade 1. When he attacks, if you have 4 more rear guards, he gets plus 10k until that battle, but has to attack. So I've seen a couple people play him, mostly in budget lists, but I think for early aggression, I guess he's nice, but I guess how often are you going to call 4 rear guards in early games? So I think he's a bit interesting, but if I was gonna use a grade 1 in the budget list, I'd rather use Funky Bazooka, who is 7k power, but has the skill that when your other rearguard is placed in the same column as him, he gets plus 5k until end of turn. This is actually quite, has quite a lot of reach, because you can call him somewhere, and then let's say use your Braki. Your Braki is called, he gets plus 5k. And then use Zyfried to call the Braki again, he gets another 5k. Use Zyfried again, he gets another 5k. So as long as the unit in front of him keeps reappearing, he gets plus 5k. So that way you can keep combining extra power with extra skills, and that way building up Funky Bazooka to be a really strong booster. So I think for that reason he is quite nice. And finally we have our starter, that is Mecha Trainer, who has the simple skill when rode upon, draw a card. So his new art is nice, but the new skill isn't as amazing as the old one. And finally we have Cheer Girl Franny. I've seen a lot of people play her as like a one-of, same with Sigiswald. So people either play like one Sigiswald or like Unite Attacker or this. But I think she's probably the least likely one, for me at least, to be played, because her skill is an act. You put her into your soul and put a card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck and countercharge once. So I guess it's alright, because even if you don't use her, it's a 10k shield. But I don't like how she clogs up your general just grade lineup. So I'm not sure if I'm a big fan, because it's nice to recycle things, from drop zone and get the countercharge, but Sigiswald does that while having a target on his head, so I think in that sense it's alright, but I've seen people play her, and people will play her, so there's nothing wrong with her, but she's just not really the kind of thing I would put in my deck. And that is actually it for Spike Brothers and for this whole set breakdown, and I think we're not gonna break, half or a whole hour on this set breakdown. We're probably gonna be closer to less than 40 minutes for once, so one of the shorter set breakdowns, but I think a lot of the cards in this set are really simple, and it's an extra booster, so there's less cards to begin with. So I think, honestly, all 3 clans were really amazing. If I was gonna say who's the best, probably Spike Brothers, then Megacolony, and maybe then Tachikaze. I feel like the problem with Axel clans right now is that maybe Busho is a bit too afraid of making them too powerful because they have such a great mechanic with Axel. So I guess we'll see, because Aqua Force doesn't look promising either, and Nova only became promising after we got some promos. So maybe it'll be the same for both Tachikaze and also Aqua Force after we get some promos for them too, but we'll see. I think Tachikaze is still really good. As I said, when it opens Exodia, it's super strong, but otherwise it can break super hard, and harder than any other clan in Standard, I think, right now, so it's not really that good when that does happen, so I think it's a bit unstable for a best of 1 tournament format. But on that note, that's going to be it for this video. Don't forget to click the bell button, as well as check out the social medias in the description, and join the Discord channel if you haven't already. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.